Hi, this is Nick Penrake. Now, if you've seen the film Shame, directed by Steve McQueen, written by him and Abby Morgan, I think you'll get a lot out of my latest novel called Hi, I'm Luna, I'm a Sex Addict. Both deal with the same subject, namely sex addiction. In Shame, of course, we're looking mainly at the behaviour of one man, played by Michael Fassbender. In my novel, we're looking at the behaviour of a woman, a painter, Luna. Where they differ, well, of course, one is a film, one is a book, but one thing that I missed in Shame was I wanted the writers to peel away more layers. I wanted to understand what was driving the Michael Fassbender character. I saw his behaviour, but I saw it again and again and again, and it got a little bit repetitive for me at times. It was still fascinating, but I did want the writers to peel away more and give us some reasons, even if they were not always full disclosure, at least give us more to work with. I do find when filmmakers don't give us enough depth, we sort of get a little bit impatient with the protagonist. We're being asked to look at all this behaviour and yet not being given the tools, if you like, to understand what we're looking at. In my novel, I wrote it before Shame came out, but I wanted to peel away the layers so we understand why this woman gets involved in sexually addictive behaviour. And what is interesting for me with the character was that the Luna character gets involved in sex in a kind of abusive way through by way of trying to improve her art. In fact, she uses sex in her art in a very literal way, in a way that she's trying to kickstart her career, because she's, as we open the story, we find her run down in terms of inspiration, mojo. You know, she's just beginning to wonder if she's got enough left in her to do more work, and she's not selling very much, and her agent is not very encouraging about the last series of paintings she's done, and so she's worried about, in fact, losing not just her studio but the place where she lives, because they're one and the same. And then just by a sort of chance event, she finds that she can use sex in some way in her art. I won't go into it now because that's why I want you to read the book, and it would take too long to describe. But it's enough for you to know that she uses sex to improve or work on certain aspects of her art, and through that she's trying to exercise certain demons which were there very much in her teenage years, when she was getting into drugs and alcohol, which of itself was a sort of therapy for the sexual abuse she suffered as a child. So she's a complex character with many, many layers, and we begin, as the story progresses, we learn more about her history. She also gets involved with two remarkable French characters who are living in London. One who's a magician and does other things, a very creative, eccentric guy, and his girlfriend. So she gets involved in this ménage à trois, and through her association with these two French guys, she also comes into contact with rather more menacing characters. So you're drawn into this sort of increasingly dark world, which draws to a climax, rather like a thriller. So it's very much set out as a Act 1, 2 and 3 with a strong climax and a twist at the end to pack a really good punch. So although it finds itself in the genre of erotica, in many ways it's literary fiction with just more sex than you're used to seeing. But the sex isn't there just for sort of titillation. soft porn or whatever. It's integral to the whole story. It's not in any way gratuitous, and it's the way Shame attempts to give you a portrait of somebody who has this sort of behaviour. I do the same, but with a woman in this case. And I actually decided to narrate in the first person, so yes, I'm a guy, but I was relieved the last time I read it to find that I was convinced by the female voice. So there's the background of the novel, and I'm just going to read a short section to give you a flavour of the kind of writing that you can expect to enjoy. So this is chapter 1. It started with paint, thick, oily stuff, cold to the touch, and it ended in blood, warm and buttery, gushing, spurtling through paint-stained fingers. And yet, in spite of the excess and betrayals, I remain grateful for this enduring, gentle image that still remains uppermost in my mind. Marie and I, naked on Marie's mattress on the floor of her room, my head on her chest, my fingers moving in circles over her breast as if raking over the pebbles of a Japanese garden. Her large manga eyes were still pink from crying, but her lips kept smiling, like a cheeky, nervous angel with a clipped wing. It was as if, after the tears had gone, we'd stepped into sunshine and rainbows. Bertrand was gone, but we had each other, and for a few hours that felt bigger than the loss we'd been crying over. When you weep for someone close to you who has died, as we had done, you realise you are crying for all those other hurts you've clocked up in your life. And you realise, too, how few of them have been lubricated by tears till now. If I hadn't been there to witness Marie break down in tears, I doubt I would ever have found a way to cry myself. I tend to bottle it up forever. When I somehow found a way to let go, I felt as if I was relearning how to cry, when I had to pass through barriers of painfully embarrassing emotions before I could believe that perhaps I wasn't actually faking it. As a grown woman, I had never cried in the arms of another woman before. Tears ran down my shirt and hers, soaking us. We peeled off our tops, suddenly hot, suddenly needing to feel each other's tears on our skin, like a healing rain. Skin to skin, we knew we were still alive, protected, loved. But even as we consoled one another, as only lovers can, I wondered if I weren't already losing her, if maybe events wouldn't soon tear us apart. To think of that happening made me angry, and out of the anger rose a fresh and desperate desire for her body, and whatever guilt rushed up to meet us, we rode on through it, like swimmers who had turned their backs on the treacherous safety of land, and swum up to meet an inescapable, bubbling tsunami. And how rich is your lover's body, salty and more richly scented, when she emerges from tears, wanting you like a gulp of rarefied air. Marie was my first woman, possibly my last, and I miss her terribly. As we lay on her bed under her thin duvet, our breasts pressed against one another, her heart beating faster than mine, we kissed one another as if picking at delicious seedless grapes, unable to stop ourselves coming back for more. I felt like a shipwrecked victim, amazed to find myself still breathing and clinging to land. We were less like lovers after the sex than children afraid to leave one another's side and return to the adult world. "What is it, sweetheart?" she would say, caressing my hair, my pelvis, my breast, as if she were now the older of us both. I wasn't used to being the child in a relationship. To begin with, I was 38 and she was 26, and thanks to my childhood, I've had a poor time trusting people my entire life. My body felt as fragile as china in her hands, even though, or perhaps because she was so delicate herself, she coaxed a tenderness from me I always knew I possessed, but hadn't been able to express with men, save warily and fleetingly. We had been 3 people, the eternal love triangle, and now we were 2. Now even his name, Bertrand, tasted like ashes in my mouth. Would the police descend on us again, with new evidence that implicated me in the crime? An unbearable waiting game had begun. when one terrible event tears a hole in the fabric of your life, you can't help feeling that maybe all that need happen now is for someone to pull at the dangling threads, and all of you will unravel till nothing is left. So it's the opening couple of pages. Hopefully you find that powerful stuff and decide to take a read. And I look forward to your comments, maybe even reviews on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, Lulu, wherever you happen to purchase or download the book. I do have a free chapter 1 for any of you visiting my site, sexandliterature.com. The links will be below. And if you're watching this between now and July the 4th, 2012, you can get a free Kindle copy by clicking one of the links below. So yeah, there is. Hi, I'm Luna, I'm a sex addict, and thanks for watching.